After the preparations have been made, including training the team and piloting the survey, the following tips may be useful for carrying out a baseline survey. Since it will be necessary to contact the respondents in the future, after a deal of time has passed, you should collect as much information as possible. Collect phone numbers or the phone numbers of close family members, and maybe also get the names of some people to contact in case the surveyed person is not around. Secondly, as we've discussed earlier, it's a good idea to look at the data during the data collection phase in order to detect potential problems that might be resolved before the survey is completed. Maybe enumerators did not understand some questions and have therefore filled out the survey improperly, or in the worst case scenario, maybe they've skipped some questions entirely. Third, related to the point above, unfortunately, some enumerators might make shortcuts and not fill out answers properly. They might fill the questionnaires from the warmth of their homes without actually talking to the people in the field. Electronic data collection helps in this respect, as GPS coordinates can be collected and an automatic timestamp at the beginning and end of each questionnaire can be added. The best option, however, is to supervise your team closely in person. This not only helps you monitor possible fraudsters, but your presence also encourages the team to do the best job that they can. After data collection for the baseline survey has been completed, the next step is usually a baseline report. At this stage, it is highly advisable to clearly document the procedures followed in collecting data. This makes it possible to follow the same protocols when collecting data in further phases of the project evaluation. Make sure to describe the evaluation design, including sampling, selection into control and treatment groups, and the questionnaire design in detail. Lastly, comment on what types of mistakes and problems arose in the baseline survey. All of this will be extremely helpful when conducting a follow-up survey in the future. After the program concludes, the next step is usually an endline survey. This involves collecting similar data as in the baseline survey so that the two sets of data can be compared. Again, it's important to stress that this is separate from regular monitoring. This regular monitoring concerns intermediate outputs, in other words, whether goods and services are properly delivered. In an endline survey, we're more concerned with the ultimate outcomes of the program. In many cases, the effects of the program may take some time to appear. In addition, short-term changes observed in endline surveys may not last. Therefore, many project evaluations include a follow-up survey as well, which is conducted sometime after the project has ended. In some cases, it might be advisable to carry out several follow-up surveys. This is the only reliable way to ensure that a particular development strategy is sustainable in the long run. When conducting endline and follow-up surveys, keep in mind the timing of data collection. A general rule should be that if you carry out the evaluation at one time of the year, then it should be carried out at the same time of year in future rounds of data collection. Sometimes a program delivers outcomes after a lengthy period. For example, a business training program for young women who are still in school might increase their chances of getting a job and income, but only after several years after the women have finished their studies. Yet an evaluation should deliver at least some results earlier, let's say at most 1 year after a program ends. If the expected outcomes of a program are long-term, an Endline survey might concentrate on more intermediate outcomes. In the example of business skills training for students, the ultimate outcomes might be increased income or a drop in birth rates or possibly a drop in child mortality. But these will only be realized in the long term. The intermediate outcomes that can give us a signal that the desired change is on the way might include, for example, improved scores in some business skills exam or increased awareness of methods of contraception. A complication that arises when conducting follow-up surveys is that many people may have moved to other locations or may have passed away. Since we've discussed the problem of attrition and how it can bias the results once attrition is non-random earlier in this course, now we'll concentrate on a few practical tips of how to minimize the problem. So one possibility is to conduct a tracking survey while the evaluated program is still ongoing. Such a survey is usually very brief, and you just ask if the contact details are still valid, and if not, update the contact details. Second, depending on the local context, you might consider advertising the next round of a survey via local media or through local community leaders. They might pre-announce the arrival of the survey team on a pre-agreed date. In order to prevent attrition, you might also consider paying people for taking part in the survey. However, do so with caution, as this may create future problems. For example, people might begin to expect payment for answering any questionnaires. This could create problems for your own organization as well as for other researchers who are working in the same area. Finally, when you are finished with the surveys and you have all of your data entered, it's a good time to start writing the evaluation report. The next step is to analyze the data. We devote an entire chapter in the manual to data analysis, so you might be interested in reading this part. However, any analysis of the data should ideally be outsourced to an experienced statistician who might discover potential problems in your data and adjust the analysis accordingly. As we have discussed, the evaluation design does not only give you an answer to whether the program works, but also for what reasons it fails. Not only that, you should ideally study which group of people the effect of the intervention is strongest for, and for which people the effect is not so strong. We can look at groups by age, gender, and income level, or many other pre-intervention characteristics. The final step is the dissemination of results, which is usually done through a report published for the agency itself, for donors and other practitioners, and the public at large. Sharing best practices and learning from the mistakes of previous programs is essential to improving the ability of NGOs around the world in improving the efficiency of services they provide, and the quality of data collection and analysis is absolutely essential in this process.